want the all-in-one WordPress migration. So we'll install it. We'll activate it. All right, it's now live. We now have the all-in-one WordPress migration option here. So let's go into import. We're going to import from file. Now, before we do this step, there's something I want to point out. The default maximum uploads file size for WordPress is 2 megabytes. This is not going to work for most WordPress site imports and exports. So we need to quickly update this file. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go back out to our command line, and we want to vim our WordPress. And the first thing I want to do is I want to come down to the bottom here, copy this, my notes, speed things up. So we'll go down to the end of our file, insert, and paste in our new settings. So we want to increase the upload max size flag to 128 megs, our post max size 128, our memory limit 256, max execution time 300, and max input time of 300. Save that. And then we also, not always, but it's also good to add the same configuration to your HT access, because depending upon the site that you're importing, it may or may not read the configuration files from the config file. They may be hard-coded in the HT access. So you come in here, we're in between the begin WordPress and end WordPress. We'll paste in these values. So again, same kind of values, upload next file, post memory limit, and execution time. Save that. And if we gave it just a second, we refresh. There we go, real time. There, our max upload size just jumped to 128 meg. So unlike virtual machines where you have to actually go start, stop, with containers, if you set it up to restart on config file changes, the moment you save the file, boom, the site is automatically updated. Next, we'll import from file. So here, I have my Melosh Consulting image that I did on July 3rd. If I open that guy, it'll import it. A fairly small image, but it does take it a second or two to load. See? So it's kind of your last warning before it overwrites your database and you lose the current configuration you have. Done. While that's still cranking, I will come back over here and go to our SQL tab. So once this is finished, depending upon what plugin tool you use to import and export your site, you may still have to do one additional step. And that will be to update your live URL links to your local host. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to update. So you'll come out here, refresh your connection, and then you'll want to run these three queries. So you'll want to run your update WordPress options, WordPress post, and post meta. And you're going to want to replace the option or WordPress option, the option value of your live site with localhost, my localhost site. And do the same thing for post content and meta value. Just database selected. Oh, yeah. We'll reconnect. There we go. SQL. Okay, they ran. And as you can see, no rows were affected. That's because the tool I used actually updated those for me. That's another reason why using the all-in-one tool is really good. All right, so we need to log in. And now our login is not WordPress. This is going to be the actual login for your site. Right? And we're getting a connection refused error. If we actually look at the details, um, there's been too many redirects or something going on. So I ran into this a couple different times. So the easiest way to fix this problem is first, we want to go in to our configuration, go back into our WordPress configuration file, and at the bottom of our file, add one additional settings change here. And let's define our WordPress home to be our localhost 12,002 and our WordPress site URL to also be localhost 12,002. The other thing you need to do is you need to come in here and go to your WordPress content folder. And look for the plugins folder here. And then we want to run the command move plugins and just essentially rename the folder to plugins disabled. Check that, plugins disabled. So we have now disabled our plugins. Back out to our site. Where did it go? Nope, I closed. Okay, so we'll cheat. Go back to our container and WordPress. And there's my site, Malash Consulting. We're now live, but we're live on localhost. And because I disabled my plugins and I added that redirect, we now have access to all of my content. So essentially, I've now ported Malash Consulting to my local website or to my local machine for development. And now I can make changes. I can come in here and re-enable plugins as I need to, and just try them out. So we are kind of constrained on time now, so I won't go into the extra piece that I had. They'll probably take another 10, 15 minutes. But what I will do is I'll record that as kind of a bonus section that I'll upload with the blog post when I post it out there and into Vimeo once I get it up there. And it's essentially will walk you through how to export the containers that we just built here, export this entire container set with the volumes so that you can essentially either save this as a template and reuse this container image again and again, or take that whole container with the image volume and then upload it to another container system, be it Kubernetes, be it Docker, or Amazon website. So again, we needed to make sure that we had the Docker Community Edition installed. We had to have Docker Desktop, Docker Compose, and we installed the 3 services, MySQL, PHP Admin, and WordPress. Does anyone have any questions before we wrap up?
Michael, I just wanted to get you to talk a little bit about containerization with the prevalence of so many cloud technologies. One of the things that I have to be cognizant of, or at least I've been challenged to be cognizant of, is that if a business decides to move from AWS to Google, will our code port? We're using more Lambda functions, which are, of course, just the Java that runs, but of course, we're using the hooks or the interfaces that AWS provides, meaning our code won't port. Can you talk a little bit about why containerization doesn't face that challenge?
I can, but that's actually a longer discussion.
I agree.
Let's table that and let me think on that a little bit,
Okay.
because I think that's actually a presentation in and of itself
Mm,
that
mm.
we have not touched on actually in previous container presentations that we have, but that's a very good one to talk about. So let me actually give that one. Uh, Let me actually do a presentation on that and give it a good um, kind of walkthrough on that, because that's just something that I really think just a quick 1-2 minute answer is not going to be sufficient.
Yeah, that's one of those. We way back we talked about the value for value kind of idea of contributing to the greater good or cause, and that is a perfect question for that. As soon as you asked, I was thinking the same thing. It's like, oh, that's a. I think it would be a very useful presentation. Would actually be to look at VMs and containers, and maybe even and we've touched on it, but I don't think we've really had some we've really looked at comparing a little bit container technologies as well. There's some different things there that I think that is an excellent presentation topic. Maybe may go beyond 2 presentations, but yeah, I agree. That's a really good question, Timothy, and definitely we'll bookmark it and come back around to it one way or another.
Awesome. Thank you all.
And that might actually be one at the end if if that really helps answer your question. Maybe you could kind of do a short presentation on kind of like lessons learned or what you kind of like real world. Here's what I'm working on, or here's what we're dealing with, kind of deal.
Yeah, awesome. I'd love that. I'll tell you a little bit. One of the challenges I've already seen is that we want to host an Angular site um, in AWS. Well, there's the straight, upload your static site to S3 and host it that way. But I found the ability to uh, containerize our Angular app and deploy it anywhere. That seems just the best option. That is just a really small use case, but um, more to the larger point, it would be nice to have a presentation. Certainly can provide some input on that. Certainly.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, like I said, I think like even Rob said, I think this will be a multiple part discussion, because really that then starts getting into things like Spring Boot and some like neutral containerization that you can use so that you can port to different things like that, like AWS and that.
It's a good point. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All right, with that, thank you guys. I appreciate your time. And if you'd love to discuss any of these topics further, you can send questions, comments, and suggestions to any of these methods. You can reach us on email at info@developer.com. You can find us on the web at developer.com/contact us. We're also on YouTube, which you can read this wonderful URL or just Google us on YouTube at Developer and YouTube. Or you can reach us on vimeo.com/developer. Our goal is making every developer better. Have a wonderful day.